Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the level 2 recording for July 11th. And what I'm going to do right now is talk explicitly in detail about the path of consciousness as it flows around this time structure, as this relates to the advanced material. But a lot of people in level 1 are asking these questions too. So this is just a good opportunity to be able to talk about this. Go to the whiteboard. So we're talking about the torus. This is from the homework assignment. If you are an advanced student and you have not watched level 1 stuff, this is basically where we're taking that harmonic structure of time or consciousness or whatever we're doing and just making 4 of them and putting them at 90-degree angles. So it's similar to what you've already done, but just doing it 4 times. Okay. Let's talk about the time vortex. Find a color you can actually see. So here's the larger chakra structure. And this would go down below, right? And this would go up above. And these are supposed to be equal circles. It looks terrible, but you know where I'm going from here. Here's that initial dot, the 0th dimension. And we're going to put a little infinity symbol there so that you understand that that is infinity. And just as before, we are going to draw the membranes of death in red. Here's a red membrane of death. Here's a red membrane of death. And then let's say blue, we'll make blue the starting line. Blue is the starting line where we begin right down here. Okay. This line is supposed to be the path of least likelihood. I mean, not supposed to be. I changed my language. This line is the path of least likelihood. It's supposed to be the only timeline that we experience in this entire superstructure. So there's one that goes up the center here, up the center here, up the center here. And if you can see me effectively in the thumbnail, if I hold up this 3-dimensional version of it, you can imagine my pen being this line that goes up through here, in this side, and also, of course, complementary on this side. So I think of it almost like a tent pole. That time, what we're really starting off with in order to make this structure of the chakras is a stretchy, like a rubbery ball. Here's a rubbery ball, and it's made out of the fabric of time, space, and consciousness. And then we have these vectors or lines of force that might come up from the bottom and in from the top, and they create this dimpling effect. And it's that dimpling effect and stretching of the fabric of time, space, and consciousness that gives us this larger superstructure, okay? So those lines of force are really, really critical and important to focus upon and understand. Those are the lines of force that are our true pathway through this shape, this time field, that we are not supposed to be. Let's choose a different color. You're not supposed to be on this brown pathway going in this direction. Because look how it does that does not fit with any of these gray lines. The lines that I just drew, none of those fit with any of those gray lines. They're not part of the metabolism of time. Same thing if I drew a line going like this, or if I drew a line going like this. None of these are at the right angle. They are not harmonically arranged so that they add to the health and vitality of the overarching or meta organism that we are submerged in, that is time. So again, this shape is like an organ within an overarching meta-organism. And if you have time flowing in this direction, that's like saying you have blood that is flowing in the wrong direction. It's like saying you have blood spurting. It's not good. You don't want to have time spurting in the wrong direction. So these, let's change the right color now. These timelines that go up here, I call it the path of least likelihood because there is literally only one of them. So now I'm going to draw cross section from the top down. Here's that same time vortex from the top down. Here's the wormhole. It's at the very, very, very center. That's how you get out of this level of reality. P.S. This is not like some kind of new age escapism where you say, I don't like my life, and I don't like my job, and I don't like my bank account. Calgon, take me away. Get me through the wormhole. This is not that type of an experience. This is really a rectification and a refinement of consciousness, and your journey is supposed to be joyous on every level. So this is not like saying, I'm going to get out of my body. I'm going into the 5th dimension. I'm better than all of you. You know, Calgon, take me away. Zoom, launch, out of here. That's not what I am advocating here. But this thing that I just drew, this little wormhole, it is a crucial aspect of the cosmos and aspect of your non-physical anatomy. It is the 0th dimension that I just explained and described extensively. It's the singularity, which is single by its nature. It is a convergence point of time. It's a doorway of time. It's a hugely important aspect of time. So that wormhole is at the center here. This is at the center here. We're looking at it from the top down, right? So now if I draw this gray line, this path of least likelihood over there, that would look, I'm using the magic of perspective, like it's going down the center here, right? Like I'm going away from us in space. And there's only one of it. There's only one path of least likelihood. Now I will draw, or I'll scribble all around it. Look, these are all millions of blue timelines. Wherever place where I'm making my scribbles over here, there's a million of them. They all stick out like this. I'm not drawing all of them. There's a million of them. Imagine like a whole big giant fiber optic cable or something like that of blue timelines. And those are all timelines that hit the membrane of death. So again, if we were completely accurate, I'd be showing you that these are spiral pathways that go around the vortices like this. But we're using more like shorthand diagrams. You guys are all super smart, so you're definitely adept enough to handle that. So these timelines don't spiral around accurately. I'm showing them instead as starting down here at the bottom and moving upward in time and then terminating on the membrane of death. All of the blue timelines don't make it out of here. We gotta get out of this place. Why do we gotta get out of this place? Why do we gotta get out of this place? Because it kind of sucks to be here, because we experience, when we are askew in the time field, we experience suffering and being cut off from the divine and death. So it's not that we have to get out of this place. This is what the big refocusing of our language that I'm trying to say. This is not about, again, the wormhole, Calgon taking you away, getting out of this place. This is instead about aligning yourself with this timeline. That is this gray timeline. The gray timeline leads you to the doorway. That is how you get out of this place. But you also have this whole entire, I'm making an exaggerated line here, this whole entire experience in time. In time, submerged in time, in a body, wearing a dress. Possibly even buying toilet paper at the store. So on your ascension timeline, you can still be submerged in time, having life experiences. So this is a big defining of our collective language and how we're talking about ascension and what it is. I've got to rearrange on my chair a little bit over here. A lot of people talk about it like I'm going to ascend one day and I'm going to get out of here. But really, ascending means that you take your wibbly wobbly chakras that are constantly aligning you with various different, possibilities where you die, and instead you keep your chakras super steady, like, you're one of these very powerful bicyclists that like goes very fast and you're very, very steady. You never fall over. Keep your chakras steady and you stay in alignment with this timeline. That is what brings you back to that convergence point. So again, if I haven't made this completely clear, you're going back to that convergence point, becomes that's where you emanate from. Here we are coming from the singularity. You see, I'm making this black blue line from here out to here, assembling over to here, and then go up the central core timeline path of least likelihood and reassemble there. So when you do this, this is the ascension timeline. P.S. This is normal. This is what everybody is supposed to do. Death is not normal. Death is the aberration. This little blueprint that I just showed you, you come from the source or from the 0th dimension, circulate into physicality. You start at the bottom, perfectly in alignment. You go up the central tent pole of this diagram and you go back to the convergence point. That's what you're supposed to do. That's like saying, I exit my house in the morning, I drive to the grocery store, or I drive to my job. I arrive at my destination. I do what I got to do. I get back in my car and I drive back home and then I get in my pajamas and go to sleep. That's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to be like, oh, I drive and then get stuck on the middle of the highway and never make it home, or, any kind of thing like that. So what's been going on in our experience as humans for millennia is that when we come from the source over here, right? We come over here and we assemble at the edge, at the periphery. And instead of over here in the middle where we're supposed to start, it's like you ain't even starting in the right place. And then it is a trial and error exploration of wrong notes. Hey, is it supposed to be this note? No, that ain't the right note. You died. You played that note and you died in 1 minute. Maybe you got, dropped on your head as a baby, or the umbilical cord wrapped around your neck, whatever it was. You lived for a minute and then died. And so here's what happens. Because of our genetic degradation, we are supposed to be live streaming our entire life. The way you can live stream on YouTube, where you're saying to everyone, this is what's happening in real time. I'm walking down the street, I'm driving my car, I'm getting some coffee. As opposed to doing a recording. When you do a recording, you say, I did all this stuff, now I'm going to show it to you after the fact. So we are supposed to be live streaming to the sun, to the stars, to the stellar network, to the thing that emanated us from infinity. We're supposed to tell it every minute of the day, here's who I am, and here's what I'm doing, and here's where I'm going. However, due to the genetic degradation, most of us cannot live stream. If you have mental chatter going on in your head, you ain't live streaming. Just think about that. Any mental chatter, all of that is friction and static on the line. It makes it very hard for the sun to hear you. So it doesn't really know what's going on in your life. So you get to hand in, I'm now going to make the little round blue dot. These little round blue dots, these are like your hard drives. These are your hard drives. Where's my hard drive? It's right down here. Hold on a second. Let's find one. Oh, I know I usually have them right down here. Here we go. Oh, here. Because this is so perfect. Sorry that I took the time to do that, because my hard drive is actually blue. So here's my little blue hard drive that I recorded all of my notes and all of my ideas and all of my music, but I didn't actually send it off to the sun. All that I did was put it onto here, and then this is how most people do death. They die, they hit the membrane of death, and then they hand in their homework assignment to the sun. They say, oh, by the way, this is what I've been doing as a human. And the sun accesses it, and it's like, oh, I wish I had had this years ago because I would have helped you in your life. But I didn't know what was going on with you because you weren't live streaming, and now you're dead and it's too late. Death is the aberration, it's the thing that's not supposed to exist. We are not supposed to ever hit the membrane of death. When we first came here, we lived in Atlantis and ancient civilizations. We did not die. It might also be considered the time of the immortals. Let me drink. A time described as a mythological time, or a time of ancient Atlantis, or a time of ancient Egypt, like pre-Pharaonic Egypt. Time when death did not exist. That actually was a real time, and we were all there. And the moment that death was invented, it was like the greatest trauma. So death was not in existence. What that meant was that all of our journeys were from the source out to here and then back up here. No one ever died. It's like the game Operation, when you try to take pincers and get a little tiny thing out, but if you touch the edge, it goes, you die. And Pedro has a funny thing. He says, game over, try again, wah. That's exactly it. We're not supposed to have to do that. We're not supposed to have to, through trial and error, constantly hit the membrane of death and then circulate back to the beginning and try again. So wait, now I have to answer specific questions. Someone in the chat of level 1 asked me, what exactly happens on the membrane of death? Well, it's a dark story, but I know exactly what happens because I went there when the previous occupant of this body was horribly murdered and, had a traumatic brain injury. So I saw all of this. I saw what happens. Hold on a second. Yeah, you don't have to get murdered either. You're not supposed to die, and you definitely ain't supposed to get murdered. If you, unfortunately, find yourself here on the membrane of death and, being murdered or whatever, what happens? You are like a sweater that grandmother has been knitting together, right? A genetic sweater. And your genetic sweater is the end result of all of these moments, these little dots, making little dots down here, dot, slices of time, or an equation, like an equation 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 equals the end result of your life, the last moment of your life. Let me stop this for a moment so I can show you this image that I've got prepared for right now. The last moment of your life. Mapping the skin of the torus. So what you're looking at right now, level 2 people, I'm going to show this in level 1 too. It's not my original image. This is from the idea of vortex-based math. You are looking at the torus, one torus, not a full chakra, half of the chakra, full torus, inside of the torus. And you're noticing that each one of these, the skin of the torus is basically subdivided. Hold on a second. The skin of the torus is subdivided. You can see these little squares in there, and each one of those squares contains all the 9 digits, integers 1 through 9. And essentially, this is mapping the skin of the torus. The skin of the torus is where you find all of your last moments. So in your life, you have an array of possible last moments. There's the last moment from when you were 1 minute old. You got dropped on your head and died. Your brain spilling out your ears. You little baby, you're dead. Oh. But don't worry, because you circulated back and then got reknit as a slightly different sweater that then lived for 2 days. And then you died of pertussis or some other type of infectious disease. And then eventually you lived for 5 years, but then you died. Maybe you fell down the stairs, drowning accident, alligator ate you, whatever it was. So what you see here on all of these numerically represented events, the end result of the equation of you. 1 + 2 + 3 + 4 equals +5 plus the moment when your alligator bit off your head equals this little position on the skin of the torus. This matters because you're going to start to understand that the skin of the torus, represents all these moments of death or accumulated hard drives. When you flying rainbow lasagna, you take this, you move it in a higher dimensional state, you fold and rearrange the skin of the torus, and in so doing, you rearrange these last moments. You can I want to take a scoop out of this reality and a scoop out of this reality. I want to knit them together in a new fun reality where I don't have to die by getting bitten by an alligator or anything. This is what we're talking about, is a rearrangement. I'm getting to my notes over here. Rearrangement of the skin of the torus, those last moments. So yeah, the last moments are your accumulated hard drives or your memories or memory banks, what you've done in your life. And it also has to do with your identity. So this rectifications, going from being to the side to being in the center. It is also very similar to the process of word processing after word processors were invented. So before word processors were invented, you either wrote your manuscript longhand or perhaps you typed it out, but it was not the same as having a computer. Once you got a computer, you could type it out and then you have version 1. You save version 1. Because you don't want to lose your work, you save it. You just write it. It doesn't matter if it has spelling mistakes, and you save it. Then you go back into it and you fix all the spelling mistakes. I just changed it. I just made edits. Then you save it again. And then you go through and you change the grammar and you refine the ideas and you go through all these different levels of refinement to the point where you like your expression, it is spelled correctly and grammatical, and you hand it in to the teacher. That is what the process of self-refinement that leads to ascension is all about. So ascension is not just getting out of the wormhole here. And I joke when I say Calgon, it's an old commercial from like a lady who doesn't like her life. And she says, Calgon, take me away. And she gets into the bubble bath and she's transported to the magic of bubbles. So I'm just being silly. Calgon, take me away. It means like, hey, I don't like my life. Get me out of here. A lot of people are this way. You're not supposed to be this way. You're supposed to be like, hey, I love my life. I want to stay here for forever and metamorphose into constantly ever-changing new states, right? Okay? So this essential convergence point is not the moment of ascension. Being in alignment is ascension. So in ancient Atlantis or this, pre-Pharaonic Egypt, time of the immortals, everybody lived in an ascended state. So what would that look like? That would be like basically all of the things that you're writing in your term paper are correct. They are all grammatical. They are all intelligent as you're going through your life. Not the idea that you're going to write a really, really crappy term paper, hand it in to your professor, and your professor will read it after your life and then be like, oh, life review. Well, this sucks, and this is wrong, and this you need to definitely work on. So this is the whole point. And we have all these earthly teachings about life review, like death isn't, death is inevitable. According to earth teachings, death is inevitable. Death is not inevitable. So that's a big one. The idea that you're going to die, one day you're going to die, and you're going to have your life review, right? With whatever, a bearded sky god or a beautiful angel or whomever it is that kind of goes over your hard drive with you and looks at it. This is where you spelled this wrong. Push this guy down on the playground. This is not acceptable. All the rest, okay. Like red mark. Okay, you get a C- in your life. And then the idea that then that would determine your next incarnation, as if incarnation is a linear refinement. No, that's not. It is not a linear refinement, okay? So not in any way is your experience of lives linear. Linear meaning first, second, third. Your experience of multiple lifetimes across time is concurrent. Concurrent. You are living all of these lives at once. You're living this life that's down here in this quadrant, and this life, and this life, and this life. And that's just one energy center. You have multiple energy centers in your body. You live in 16, 24, 36, 62, 72, a lot of lives at once, because this shape is integral. So if I tilt this shape to the side like this, hey, look, it affects all of these timelines. All these timelines now become out of alignment with their central core proposition, their central core path of least likelihood. So it means all of these timelines have to, at the same time, concurrently get them, like turning a car. Turn that car, get it into alignment where it's supposed to be. You existing across time. So I'm this person right now. I'm in this space. I have this hair. I have this dress, and I'm also at least 3 other people in time. I am lots of other people in time. So we are lots of other people in time living concurrently. And this moment that we're doing, where we are kind of trying to like get our car into alignment, because otherwise you will go over a cliff. You have to turn the car, otherwise go over a cliff. This turning of the car we are doing on many multiple concurrent timelines. You, as a Neolithic person wearing an animal skin, are doing it at the same moment you are sitting in a house wearing polyester. At the same moment you might be in a far distant future wearing space unitards or whatever. P.S. Why do they always show people wearing a unitard in space? It's very uncomfortable when you have to use the bathroom, because you have to unzip the whole entire thing. That's all I'm saying. Okay. I make jokes, I know. So now we're back to the idea of flying rainbow lasagna, rearranging the last moments of your life and rearranging those hard drives so that you can have something that not only does not lead to a physical or metabolic death, but leads to transcendence and a continuation of your life experience. Let me also go back into more of the questions that were from level 1 that I said, hey, I'm going to answer that in level 2, and then make sure we get everyone else through here. Okay. All right. Okay. So wait. This is Chloe's question. Sorry, I'm squinting. I know we have crazy faces. Chloe says, is there a place directly outside of the membrane of death where you are unraveled specifically within the astral plane? And I said in level 1, the astral plane is the membrane of death. There are several layers to the astral plane, and that waterfall membrane, we also have to understand, has several layers to it. Let's talk about the layers of what's going on there. Think of it as lanes on a multi-lane highway. Also understand that, let's say if there's, I'm just gonna say this is the membrane of death over here. It's a multi-lane highway, right? We have some roads. Here, are we drawing with this color? We have some roads that are going away from the source. Let's say red roads, like an artery going away from, and we have some that are going to. Here's a blue that is going to. So it's 2 multi-directional highway, both from and to. And then let's also say, let's say that these are the breakdown lanes of the highway. You have fast traffic and slow traffic. So you have various different layers of stuff moving. So let's say over here you have stuff that's really, really, really blocked up. This is the slow lane. Not only is it the slow lane where the traffic's moving 5 miles an hour, but there's like, whatever, an overturned RV and something else, and also hobos are camping out. The slow lane is really, really slow. Then let's say there's the middle lane, and people are going there like, whatever, 15 miles an hour, and, you know, every now and then you find a motorcycle crash, but it's not that bad. And then you have, you know, the fast lane where everyone's moving super, super, super fast, right? These are what the layers of the astral, or the realm, the world in between realms, the meniscus, the membrane between worlds, has different layers and levels. And I just used a simplification of the idea of, you know, slow, medium, and fast. There are many layers. So when I talk about the lower astral, I'm talking about the slow lane. When you take some ayahuasca or whatever, you think, blast off, I'm really like getting into the highest levels. No, you're not getting into the highest levels. Like, you get on the highway and you're in the breakdown lane. You're with all of the overturned RVs and the hobos that are camped on the side of the road, and everyone's moving super, super slow. It's sludge. It's not intentional. It's not the way it's supposed to be. And again, the reason why I don't recommend that you go there is because you do not meet the best segment of society by going like to the roadside. That's not how you meet the artists, musicians, you know, healers, visionaries of the world. Like, you have to go to the conservatory. Like, you have to go to you know, concert hall. You have to go someplace. Those would be the faster levels of the highway. what happens when you, like, let's say you've lived an ordinary life, you've knitted together your genetic sweater, you got to the age 40, got in a car accident out on the highway, and all of a sudden you die. What happens? Your ego is unmade. Your ego is part of this accumulated set of hard drive stuff. It's all the things that you've done and said and your sense of self and who you are. That gets unmade, gets unraveled. Pull out all the threads and the loops of the genetic sweater so that you are just a ball of twine. And in some ways, like, this is good because you clearly did not solve the problem. The problem is, how do you get out of this level of reality? But it is not an escapism level of reality, because you then become refined in higher and higher levels. So let me just go through that too. When you make it to the wormhole, you don't quote unquote get out of here, out of this place. I'm sorry if I'm silly and I sing sometimes. If it's the last thing we ever do. Okay, sorry. Let's get serious. Let's focus. When you make it back up this central core timeline and you get to this doorway, what happens? People think, oh, then I get out of this place. But what happens is you get into a new place. And you could imagine that new place as being, let's get a different color, as being situated like this, where you are now at the periphery of a new, smaller time vortex that you now need to work your way in towards the middle and work your way upward like this. Or you could envision it as being nested perfectly together. Here's your next gig, everyone. Here's your next gig. This is the next vortex that you have to go through with, of course, a highly exaggerated wormhole at the top. But once you get in alignment like this, you keep going through successive wormholes. You keep going up these central core timelines. Or if you don't know which is the right timeline, you go through the process of refinement to find it. And then you go through that wormhole. And then you go through this little tinier wormhole. Do you understand? It keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. You keep on refining more and more and more. So it's a never-ending journey. Never-ending journey. And I'm getting very silly because I think I've been doing this for a long time. Hold on a sec. So you don't get out of here and then cease to exist, or poof into a ball of smoke, or suddenly you're, like I said, sitting on a cloud. My life is so easy. I live in the fifth dimension. I'm sitting on a cloud, everything is so great. No, you're gonna keep on working. You gotta work, boss. But the work becomes easier, is what I'm trying to say. So we might have this sense of earthly toil and suffering and death and the inevitability of death. We do not have to keep on walking and trudging in these unpleasant circles and cycles over and over and over. The work can be joyous. The journey can be joyous. So that's why I'm trying to, in a lighthearted way, using all these pop songs to try to say, this is not about getting out of here. This is not about trying to, because life stinks, but you're supposed to transform. So you're supposed to rewrite the paper so that things get better here, as opposed to saying, just like, quit university. Don't just quit university. Stay in the university, change the entire dynamic of writing papers and, being with your professor. So there is a place specifically where you unravel. And if you do your unraveling effectively in the right way, it's supposed to be fast, not like over several hundred years. That's called being a ghost or a supernatural residue. So I use this example all the time. My friend that lives in historic Kingston, New York, who has a supernatural residue of a woman from the Revolutionary times, the 1600s, maybe 1700s, wearing a little bonnet. And all that she does is pick up a casserole from the middle of the table and then walk to the side, put the casserole down on a little table on the side. Like, she probably did that 12 million times a day in her life. But the point is, she's dead. And that sweater is supposed to be unraveling, not continuing to reverberate and play that over and over and over. Or a song. That's the song of that lady from 400 years ago. It's not supposed to be playing anymore. It was supposed to be playing 400 years ago, not now. So this is the difficulty with supernatural residues and reverberations through time. That might be a perfectly nice song, but it just might not be the right moment in the symphony for it. So please understand that. Some of the best things you can do when you meet a supernatural residue is to simply, gently, lovingly tell it, you dead, honey, you dead. You need to move on. You need to stop walking in the same circles that you've walked in for 400 years and go someplace much more fun and much more free. Like, whatever. You don't want to be stuck in Boca Raton, Florida, walking around your retirement village when you could be traveling the cosmos and doing something really fun and interesting. So yes, at a certain point, it is time to let go who you were. And so what's happening on a genetic level is that the chromosome becomes unfurled. It becomes chromatin. It just becomes the stuff of what the basic building blocks are. So a slow release pill, or going to entropy, which is loss of energy, or being frozen, is, you want it to be fast. You don't want it to be slow. So that membrane of death is supposed to be a place where energy flows. So if you're this slow release, like imagine a fatty blockage that takes many, many years to be enzymatically degraded or whatever, that means that it's slowing down the entire time metabolism. Now let's imagine that those blockages throughout the entire time metabolism. That were happening in my body, that would not be good. It means the blood would not get from here to here and then back to here again. If you have blockages blocking up the time field and making it so that your consciousness cannot flow where it needs to go in time, you have a big metabolic disease. So death is not just something that's an insult to us. It's not just something that is inconvenient or painful to us. It is a symptom of something much, much larger, a symptom of suffering much, much larger in the time field at large. What we do when we rectify our own life experience is we are healing the larger being that we live within. So if you're like, I'm a little red blood cell and I'm supposed to flow from here to here and I'm supposed to get through the blockages. If you get through the blockages, you are helping the greater body. You're a good red blood cell. Let's say you get stuck. You're like, I'm a red blood cell. I got stuck here. I've been here for 400 years. Like, you're not exactly evil, but you're not doing your job for the health of the entirety. And then there are beings who intentionally get stuck. Those are the occupiers of the interstices. Those pesky occupiers, they put themselves there. They invented death. They're like, we're inventing death. We're creating the economy of hell. We're putting ourselves there. They want to be there. They're hobos on the side of the road. They don't want to change. They don't want to integrate. They don't want to heal. They like what they got. And they don't get to continue their empire of filth. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like this rectification and healing that we do in our genetic code and with our consciousness is very inconvenient to them, but they don't really get to have a say about it. It's like tough luck. Like you're the hobos. You're getting kicked out. They are the hobos is what I'm trying to say. They're getting kicked out. Who cares if it's inconvenient to them? Of course it's inconvenient to them. Ines says, it is said that Earth itself jumps to the fifth dimension by itself. How do we interpret this? Really, really good. Thank you for asking me this. So I think what you're talking about, Ines, is more of a allegorical idea of jumping to the fifth dimension, which I would describe as being analogous to taking the north-south poles and transforming them to a flying rainbow lasagna shape. I'm not making crazy hand gestures here. The north-south does not go to south-north, not this way, flipping like this, but an unfolding or an inside to the outside. So this is what that jump is like the jump of a little dot from a zeroth dimension into the first dimension, being aligned. We are jumping from a flat time plane into an origami folded time plane. We are jumping from a toroidal shape into a hypertorus flying rainbow lasagna shape. So what is happening? Earth is transforming her experience of time. Earth is getting additional degrees of freedom. Earth is unfolding the inside to the outside and the outside to the inside. We're part of that. Our consciousness, I need to drink water, and our dreams and perceptions are part of Earth's dreams and perceptions and our creative expression. What we do with our music and our art and our singing and even our videos on YouTube, these are part of the planet's self-expressions. So everything is connected on this journey of whatever, going into a higher dimensional state. Yeah, what will the experience be like? It basically, matter will respond directly to your mind. There will be no distinction between mind and matter. Here's the world of mind, here's the world of matter. Mind, matter, mind, matter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, mind and matter are come together. That is what is happening. So Jeffrey asks a wonderful question. Thank you for this. The question is whether the ability to ascend, which again, in this class, we are defining as get yourself in alignment, fix all of the grammatical and spelling mistakes of the term paper of your life and turn it in as a live stream to your professor. Is any of that impeded or interrupted by a vasectomy? So I would say no. I would say that is not going to stop your journey of ascension. It's a really interesting question. Thank you for that. Because literally you can do this journey of ascension even if you have profound physical injuries. You could do it even if you are a quadriplegic, like if you had a spinal cord injury and could no longer move your arms and legs. This is really, really big. You can do this journey of ascension even if you have had like a neurological injury or an amputation. But you might say, but wait, I can't do this. They cut off my equipment. I can't do this. Like I can't paint a painting if I do not have, arms and legs and paint things to do a paintbrush with. So the answer is, I said ascension, we're defining here in this class, not just as going through this doorway wormhole, getting out of here, quote unquote, but the entire process of tuning up who you are, refining your characteristics while you're in the time field. That is something you can do even if you've had an amputation, a neurological injury, if you have a profound disease or any kind of thing like that. So a vasectomy is a relatively small injury or insult to the biology, to the, your biological structure. But the answer is, what we do when we become more in tune with who we really are is we transcend. We become the people that we would have been if we had never experienced any bodily traumas, and that includes minor traumas, such as orthodontia. You were a little kid and they made you wear braces on your teeth. That's a minor trauma. They're like, oh, we're helping you. We're giving you straight teeth. Like, no, it's a minor trauma to your body. How about taking out your tonsils? How about taking out your appendix? How about any of the ear piercing? Can you ascend if your ears are pierced? Well, look at me, guys. I'm in a body. I'm a galactic walk, and it came with these holes. I'm like, as long as you got the holes, I might as well use them. It's like if I got nail holes on the wall here in the house. We'll put a painting up just because there's nail holes there, but I wouldn't have made the holes. But what's going to happen? Am I going to ascend and live my whole entire life with tiny little holes in my ears? The answer is no. The answer is each one of us will restructure both our physical bodies and our bodies of pure consciousness, which is like, it's your light body, but it's also your heart and your consciousness and your feelings and your sensation and your time. All of it gets restructured until we are the perfected being that we were always meant to be. That means, what if you've been raped or sexually abused? You are profoundly healed of that trauma. What if you had your legs cut off in a war? You are healed of that trauma. So you become the person you were always meant to be. You might even be unrecognizable in your metamorphosed state to the people that knew you in life in your diminished state. Like, what if you had a accident, at age 5 and your skin was burned and you didn't look like your true self? You looked like the version of you that had this profound trauma. As you are getting in alignment with your perfect timelines, you will transcend that trauma. You will no longer have evidence of that trauma on your skin, and then people might not recognize you. So this also speaks to the idea of identity. I am not defined as the person that this bad thing happened to. And likewise in my life, people should not identify me as, oh, that's that person that had that bad thing happen to. Like, look, she's got the scar on her face. We know that that's definitely her. I want you guys to I identify myself as this person who makes this art, and this person that makes this music, and this person that makes this shape and has this lighthearted attitude, and I sing and I do silly stuff in my class. That's me. That's not like I'm defined by the wound or the injury that I experienced. I'm defined by my creative output and the positive personality characteristics of who I am. That's what this journey is. The journey of going from askew to in alignment is the journey of understanding and knowing yourself and your true self. That you are, first of all, we all know we're not psychopaths. None of us are Charles Manson. We're not Hitler. We're not, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to grab a machete and chop somebody up. We're not that people, not us in this class. But also, we are not I want to say victims or experiencers of trauma and abuse and accidents and injury and illness. We are not that. So, in my life, I had profound neurological damage to this body, but I'm not defined by that. I'm not, oh, that's that girl that had that brain injury. And also, I do everything in spite of this. And also, one day I know that I will experience the profound healing as if that never even happened to me. And until that day, I keep doing everything that I can that's in alignment with that possible world. So if on that possible world, I can do all sorts of paintings and music and art projects, like I'm going to do that now as much as I possibly can. So it's like, let's say if you have one leg is amputated, you know that on your ascension timeline, you will eventually have both of your legs. You don't have to wait, though, in order to be able to exercise or run or whatever. Do it now with the prosthesis. I wear contact lenses so that I can be able to see effectively. I use cannabis medicine. I use all these different things to be able to transcend the neurological trauma of my brain. One day I won't need contact lenses anymore. It would be great. One day I would not need CBD medicine. That would be great. But until then, use the things that kind of help you to be in alignment with your perfected timeline. And I say this all the time also. The ability to dance the flying rainbow lasagna. You don't have to start off with a perfect body. Doing the lasagna envisionment or meditation. You're wonderful. I see your mini is right there. That's perfect. This helps the body. So even if you were a profoundly disabled quadriplegic, you could vibrate on a cellular level and do the flying rainbow lasagna and bring yourself closer and closer to timelines of complete health and vitality. Kevin was asking me, what is the Calgon though? Calgon, he thought Calgon was a person. No, Calgon is just a silly, silly thing. Judy says, if that is not a joke, Calgon, it's from a commercial of Calgon. Take me away. I must be showing I'm out of touch with birth culture. Miniman says, why am I not broadcasting live to the sun right now? And the answer is, why is death in existence? Why? Because our genes got squashed, because we ain't shaped right. And the answer is, how do you get shaped right? You flying rainbow lasagna. So we're supposed to be continually connected to the sun and the stars, broadcasting live stream with no verbalization. Is your mind full of verbalized thoughts? If so, then you are not effectively broadcasting. And there are other genetic aspects that make it hard for the sun to hear us. Don't take it personally. It's not just like, oh, if I have more willpower, then the sun can hear me. It's not about that. You got to retune. We have to retune everything so that the sun can begin to hear us. Judy says, is live streaming having our crown chakra open, connected to source? Yes, it's very much connected to your crown chakra. That's up here, the giant ponytail of your chakra system. So little tiny babies, infants, when they first come here in the first year of their life, they have their little fontanelle, a soft spot at the top of their head where the skull plates have not fused together and where they're still freaking connected to the divine and to the cosmic ocean of consciousness. But it's not just words that we begin to change when we get our fontanelle fuses. It's a separation. It's a sense of individuality. When you're connected, you're like, I'm the same as it. It's the same as me. We're connected in a big, giant, whatever network. But when you get that fuse, then you're like, oh, I'm me. I'm me, and my name is John or Sally or whatever my parents call me. And then you develop a sense of self. I'm John. I'm Sally. This is my face. I'm touching it. This is my dress. I like this dress. This is my favorite book. You develop all those senses of individuality, and that's not evil. But it's just the sense that that is a separation. And then what does flying rainbow lasagna do, class? You're wonderful. It brings together formerly divergent realms. It brings together self versus context, you versus your environment. That sense of being closed off from the fusing of your skull plates is then rectified, where you then see that you are intimately interconnected with your environment and with the sun or the source. Miniman says, who created the aberration of death and why does it still exist? The answer is satanic space races that invaded this planet and caused the genetic squashing. It's actually lesson 18. We'll get there. Julia says, I am under nearly perpetual satanic attack. I'm sorry to hear that. They haven't managed to kill me. My discs in the spine are bulged. She's got back problems. She says, we are love beings, yet our chakras are so askew because entities are harvesting our consciousness. What can we do? I feel we are helping. Is this correct? Yeah, and I wish you well on the journey of healing and integration. The answer for me is always flying rainbow lasagna. So in this class, I teach the exact how you do it. So part of it is learning about these structures of time. And then just like that little 0th dimension, make the jump from the 0th dimension into the 1st dimension. So we actually make this jump into a higher dimension and gain an additional degree of freedom. She continues to say, how can we stop them from siphoning if they have our DNA and blood? They have like little snippets of our DNA that they've put into their hip hop mashup, but we are the controllers of our music. So we get to write a new music. That is the don't F with me music. I keep it family friendly, but you know what I'm talking about. Don't F with me, you stupid pootie. We'll sing it. It'll be great. It'll be great. We'll do a little album together. Keeping it lighthearted, everyone, right? Let me squint and see. So Eleanor says, how does the sun receive our hard drive when the pesky occupiers collect as on the membrane of death? So that right now you consider it almost like there's like an energetic firewall. Like, you know, when you put something in your email, I was on the road. I kept trying to email everyone back in the class and it just kept going to my outbox and not going anywhere. This is what happens with our live stream, that you can be trying to talk to the sun or to the divinity and you put a message that you wrote in, like maybe it might be like a prayer or a supplication, and it goes to your outbox. Well, it never actually gets anywhere because we've been kind of blockaded, kind of firewalled. And then when you die, all of those out messages finally connect through your outbox. You hear the little whooshing sound, whoosh. Oh, that's that message where I was saying to the sun, like, hey, please help me fix, whatever, can you heal the tumor? Apparently the tumor didn't get healed. Now you're finally getting the message, right? Like, so that is what happens. Allison has a good question. Says, do pets and wild animals end up on the membrane of death too? Domesticated animals are different than non-domesticated animals. Domesticated animals are much closer to our human levels of distortion and do that thing going through the very many possible iterations, dying and trying it over and over and over again. I would say, oh, I have to stop. Okay, I'm going to have to wrap it up because the repairman is here. So let me just finish this for right now. Thank you so much for everyone who participated.